Guys, it's Maymay and welcome to another Scripture Art Journal week. And this week's scripture comes from Genesis, and it just simply says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And I just wanted to kind of play around a little bit with some coloring. And I don't know how boring this may get, but when I go to edit, if I feel like it's a little boring, I may fast forward or put some music on or something so you don't have to watch me just sit here and color forever. But here's what I'm going to do. I have all of these colored pencils out. They're actually watercolor pencils, and don't tell anybody. I'm not going to wet them. I'm just going to color them and put them into my book. So they may not be too permanent. If you're doing this, use color pencils. But I don't have any colored pencils. I just have these guys. And I don't want to wet it. And I kind of just want to do this free flow drawing thing. So I have this picture in my mind. And we'll see how this goes. The first thing I want to do, I better put some scrap paper down. Let me do that. Because I'm going to be going on and off the page with this first little bit. So this is just a piece of copy paper. I've cut my paper down to, I think it's 7 by 9.5, just because I didn't want to have to color a whole 8.5 by 11 page. I thought that would be too much for what I want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this marker and just do a light color. And I'm just kind of almost making like areas for clouds. And I'm really just squiggling. You may not see this at first until I really get to coloring, but I'm just trying to do this so I can leave myself some spots for clouds. Just kind of giving myself the idea. So then I'm going to come back in and I'll get a little heavier in places and in other places, and I'm just going to play. I don't know how this is going to turn out. It's just in my mind that I wanted to do this, so I'm just going to play around and see what we get. When I think about verses in Genesis, a lot of times I think of teaching kids about the beginning, you know, the creation, and I think about how we teach our children about it, and I always think about coloring when I think about kids, because I think they just do things with such abandon, you know, they don't think about it, and it's not a big deal to them. So I'm just going to create what I would consider to be kind of the heavens. I think it's starting to feel kind of skyy. Be careful not to make any quick, sharp, dark blue motions. Now I'm going in heavier and trying to put in some, not shadow, just darker blue spots. I don't want any like streaks necessarily, just some darker blue spots. Just to give me some striation of color. I really like how that's turning out. Okay, let's do the grass. I'm going to start with my lightest green. This is going to be the grass here at the bottom. And I'm just going to kind of color the whole area. Just sloppily. Just like that. Then I'm going to take my next darkest green and do the same thing, but in just less places. So here, and then here, kind of like we did the sky, kind of mimicking it. And then here. But this way I'm going to keep everything kind of straight. Then I'm going to take this last darkest green that I have and do the same thing. Right along this hilltop. The picture in my head was kind of inspired by something I saw online, where the picture was the sky and the ground coming together, and where they meet was like a field of flowers. And that's what I'm going to attempt here. What color do I want to use? I think I'm going to go back to that lightest green first, and I'm going to flick into the sky what would be flower stems. So I'm just going to flick all over the place, and I'll go in this direction first. And then I'm going to turn it and flick in this other direction. And then I'm going to flick across those, because they were growing in every different direction in the picture that I saw. It wasn't a watercolor, it was actually a photograph, and I thought that's a cool thing to kind of mimic. So there's those little stems. Let's do the next color green. Just flick them the same. just to give us some dimension of flowers. And the taller your flowers are, the closer the ground will seem to you. See how that made it feel really close? So think about that as you're doing it, if you try this. All right, and then I'm going to use this dark color again. Then on the ground, I'm just going to come down here and just flick some spots here too, especially since it seems like it's kind of close. Now in this field, it was just dots of color everywhere. So I'm going to take this yellow and I'm just going to do dots. Just dark dots. Not real flowers, just dots. And it was just the feel of flowers. You couldn't see the flowers. It just felt like flowers, like wildflowers. Now I'm going to come back with, I think, the middle shade of green and do like some leaf shapes. Now, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? This was kind of how it looked. I think I want more heavy green at the bottom. I'm going to come back in and flick in a little more green. I want it to be very dense, as if it was just a big wildflower mess, if that makes sense. What other color? Let's put a little brown in. What can that hurt? Just flick some in here and there. Just like that. That reminds me of the photo that I saw. I think I'll do some more specific flowers down here. So let's do a yellow one or two. Something like this. Let's do an orange one in that different shape. Let's do a pink one over here. They remind me of tulips in a lot of ways, which I don't hate because I'm a big tulip fan. And let's do some leaves around them. I really like that. Now for my scripture, I'm going to put it at the top here. And I'm going to put, do I want to use this dark? I think I'm going to do this navy blue. So at the top, I'm going to write, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I'll go back and darken it in a little bit in places, because using a pencil it kind of makes it light in places. But I want it to feel really loose. Almost kitty, but not kitty, you know, because I want it to kind of go with the flowers. Something like that. And then I'm going to come down here and put Genesis. I always check to make sure I spell right, because as soon as I don't, I will spell it wrong. One, 1. I think it's an interesting scripture for this time of year because, you really think of this kind of in the spring, everything's fresh and new, but we're coming up on the fall season. And for some of us, like me especially, fall is just my time. I love that time of year. So even though I did this very springy looking, I'm looking forward to that time of year too. So I'm glad I did this one at this point in time. So it's time to place it into our journal. Just going to flip it open. And, oh, it's going to look really good next to this. And I'm leaving the background cream. I just want the picture to show and be kind of popped. I really like that. That's cute. I'm really glad it's next to that color, too. Do you guys do like I do? Do you open it back up and are kind of, you don't remember what last week's picture looked like? Or you're kind of like, oh, yeah, that's what I did last week. I do that sometimes. Sometimes I remember because I'll leave it sitting open on my desk where I can keep an eye on it all week as I'm learning the scripture. And then sometimes I already know the scripture so I don't have to study on it as far as like memorization. So then I don't have to. So I don't always keep it out. But I do like to come back and see what I did from week to week. And there we go. See there? I don't know how to draw, but it was fun to try. I think that's pretty cool. It worked out all right. I really like it. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. If this is your first time at our scripture art journaling group, just know that you can head over to Facebook. The group is called Hide His Word in My Heart. There's a link below, and you'll be able to find all the scriptures from where we very first started and be able to fill up your book as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you on Monday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.